virtually. So Commissioner, if you need to ask a question or anything, just raise your hand or wave, and I'll do my best to keep my eye out for that. So colleagues, this is a work session of the Portland City Council. Today's date is October 20th, 2023. This is the third and final planned work session on facilities related to the Charter Transition Project. Before we start, I just want to acknowledge that I've heard a lot of questions about the process and decisions that have been made to this point. I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So we are going to get to the facilities question. We have a fairly short presentation, and we have 2 hours actually scheduled for this. So we'll have plenty of time. The vast majority of the time that we have available today is going to be for dialogue, for questions, answers, and I hope we'll just have a very thorough and forthright discussion. But I have asked Robert Taylor, City Attorney, to highlight some of the key decisions up to this point that the Council has approved, including an ordinance that was approved by Council in April of this year. I think honestly, in discussing this with all of you, there may have been some confusion about that ordinance, so I want us to put that ordinance on the table and make sure that we're all on the same page about that. Once Robert is done, then the lion's share of the presentation is going to be done by Maddie Souter and her team to come back and share the transition team's recommended design plan as part of the process that was approved in April for downtown workspaces. This recommended plan accommodates the business needs for a future mayor, the city administrator, and a 12-member council starting on January 1st, 2025. I believe all of you have received the run of show and the slide deck in advance of this meeting. My request is that we allow Maddie to walk through all of the slides and reserve question and comments to the end of the presentation. We'll have plenty of time, as I say, after the presentation to talk about the timing of the construction and the costs, as well as alternatives that you would like to put on the table for discussion and consideration. And I want to reiterate that I did receive a proposal from city commissioners, and this would be a great time to go through and discuss that proposal. My goal is that everybody fully understands both the renovations envisioned and some of the major maintenance work that needs to occur regardless of the transition to inform both the questions and the comments that we might ask as a council. So with that, Robert, I'll start with you, and then when you're done, we'll get to Maddie.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And we've been asked to go through the ordinance that was passed by council in April. And this discussion, I think, will kind of help us understand where we've been and what some of the next steps are. And also it sort of gets to some questions of authority that have been out there and discussed. So hopefully we can bring some clarity to that question. So the ordinance, it was number 191246. It was passed April 19th, 2023, so earlier this year. And that authorized an alternative contracting method, a CMGC contracting method. And that allowed the scope and schedule to be developed during the design process. It allows for an expedited completion of the project, and it allows the owner to have input during that process. The authorization included the ordinance and findings, and the findings were meant to support this alternative contracting method. And the goal as a basis to support this alternative method was to fully complete the project by January 1st, 2025. And the project includes both the council chambers and the council offices. And the ordinance contemplates that there will be a guaranteed maximum price contract for the chambers work, and then also a separate guaranteed maximum price contract for the council offices work. And then it was also clear that the details of the work were going to be developed during the design process. The ordinance and the supporting documents outline the concept for the work. And so, for example, the impact statement talks about City Hall's first and second floors would need to be renovated in preparation for the 12 counselor offices, and that downtown civic workspaces would be reconfigured to accommodate the 12 counselor offices and workstations for staff. Transitory space would be explored to house existing commissioners and facilitate construction. And there was an acknowledgement that if there were delays, it could cause issues for holding public meetings and giving the new counselors the ability to complete their work. So that was the concept. And those were all used to help support the alternative contracting method. What's also clear from the ordinance and the supporting documents is that council was viewed as the primary stakeholder in this process, and that council would play a formative role in determining the final scope and budget, including the timing of the work. The testimony and discussion talked about the ordinance as approving a process and not a plan, and that the plan would be developed with feedback from council. So that's what we have been doing since April, is working through that process. And then in the ordinance, the next step is a report will come to council, the chief procurement officer's report, and it will recommend the guaranteed maximum price contract for the chamber's work, guaranteed maximum price for the work on the council offices. Council will have an opportunity to consider that report, and if council approves it, then the chief procurement officer has authority to execute the contracts to carry out that work. Council can vote not to approve that report. They can vote no on that. And if council votes no on that, then the work would not proceed, and we would, pay the contractor for the work that they have done to date and then not proceed. So that's where we are at in this process, and that's the next step as contemplated by the ordinance. It gives council that ability to consider that report and decide if that's the direction they want to go.
Great. Any questions on this before we move on to Maddie?
I might just supplement a couple of pieces, if that's okay. Robert, thanks for the summary. If I hear you correctly, we authorized a process, did not authorize a plan.
Right.
And so whatever plan we go forward is subject to majority council vote when it comes before us.
That's right.
And two adjacent sort of authority pieces that I just want to put out on the record, and maybe you can confirm if I'm summarizing this correctly. Council chambers is the place for council meetings unless a majority of council approves some alternative location.
That's right. Yep.
And code, including as it relates to OMF, can be amended with a majority approval of city council.
That's right.
Okay, I'm good for now.
Good? Excellent. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it. Maddie, welcome.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You and your whole team. Thank you.
Right, everybody. Just a moment, I'm pulling this up. Is it working? All right, hello again. Maddie Sauter, Division of Asset Management, and we're here today to talk about, I believe we've had robust discussions about at least a couple aspects of the project, council chambers, thanks to Commissioner Ryan, and district offices. But our goal here today is to open up the discussion on the downtown workspaces. The essential design program is the configuration changes accessibility improvements, security, technology, and major maintenance. And we wanted to give you and answer questions for you regarding both the mayor and city administrator's office and the council offices themselves. So the essential design program for all of these spaces is the same. We are proposing a minimal rework of existing configurations. So that's to support the 12-member council and also the city administrator in the mayor's office. In all spaces, we're looking to improve accessibility under ADA, so printing and break rooms in particular are deficient. Security, we are looking to equalize the security program across the suites. They have different security attributes, and we want to raise them to a modern standard and make sure that they're the same from suite to suite. Technology, the cabling in the walls is about 30 years old, so we want to improve that and bring it up to more modern standards and improve the wireless. And then we have a series of major maintenance projects that we are looking to layer on at the same time, because while we're in the spaces, it's a good opportunity to do that. And that's the replacement of 46 aging heat pumps that are at or past their end of life. There is some seismic bracing that we're looking to do in the ceiling and the sprinklers. And where possible, we'd like to transition to LED lighting. So that's the essential scope. And I'm going to turn it over to others to speak to the actual design program. So if you could introduce yourself and then let's go.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mayor. I'm Randy Selleck, MAC Team Manager with Facilities. So we're going to review the Mayor and City Administrator changes, and I just want to let the teams know that this is still in process. We've only just begun design since we've only recently added this scope of work to add efficiency and economize the project goals. So we're going to right-size the city administrator office. We'd also be creating another additional all-user restroom in this plan. Much like the commissioner suites that we've reviewed, we'd be making a break room and print room accessible, updating the security program, the Cat6 cables, and as well as doing major maintenance in space, heat pumps, select lighting, and ceiling seismic bracing. We'd be doing patch and paint in the affected construction areas. So I think if you look at the plan, there's not a lot of changes. This is pretty much what it looks like today in the mayor's office. So it's just reallocating offices, making the adjustment to the city administrator, adding the all-user restroom, and making the adjustments as stated for the break room and print, and dedicating an office as a print area. Next slide.
Caitlin McGeehee. So we're going to move on to the second floor, and we wanted to showcase a diagram that shows the scope of where we're doing construction specifically. The area of construction highlighted in yellow. You can see the filled regions concentrated at the break rooms to make those spaces accessible and shared amongst the districts. You can see a dashed yellow line, which indicates where we are removing a wall to help right-size offices and support the reconfiguration. On the next slide, you'll see the new program for the second floor. You'll see in each of the corners, we are indicating a space for each district. We have 3 private offices for the counselors and 3 private offices for their senior council aide. In the middle of those private offices, we have open office, and that will have 6 workstations where we'll have 3 council aides in the bullpen, plus a single shared staff, and that leaves 2 workstations for hoteling. It's available space, and that is replicated in each of the corners. The scope includes, similar to what we're doing on the 3rd floor, right-sizing the council offices, creating an all-user restroom, making those break and print rooms accessible, enhancing the security program, doing technology upgrades, and then patch and paint at the areas of work. We're not doing a full blow finish improvement everywhere, and we are going to replace the carpet in MAP's current office only. And then I'll turn it over to Randy.
Hi, Randy Yoshimura, mechanical engineer with the Capital Asset Management Group in Facilities. So while we're doing work in the space, it gives us a unique opportunity to do a lot of the major maintenance projects that we wouldn't be able to do while the space is occupied. The most notable is the replacement of the HVAC heat pumps that are located above the ceiling. Currently, there's about 107 units throughout the building. About 83% of those are in the age range of 26 to 27 years old. And for reference, industry standard for a heat pump, life expectancy is about 19 years. So we're past due on a lot of them. Of those 83%, almost half of them are located within the project space that we're talking about. So it gives us an opportunity to take advantage of that. In addition to replacing aging units, it gives us increased energy efficiency. We get to replace old refrigerant. Currently, the units use R22, commonly known as Freon, which is banned from production and import in 2020. So it gives us an opportunity to go away from ozone depleting gas. We also could have the opportunity to do LED lighting upgrades in the offices. Currently, they're all fluorescent tubes. We also have seismic bracing for the sprinkler pipes, which is a requirement now. And since we're taking down the ceiling, we can replace it with a new ceiling that's properly seismically braced.
Similar diagram to the second floor. We're moving to the first floor where we're doing renovation of the Suite 110, which is formerly the Civic Life Space. We're showing areas of construction at those offices in yellow. Most of this scope is just reprogramming existing space. And you'll see here, since on the second floor, we are reprogramming existing conference rooms to be counselor offices. We're lacking those shared conference rooms on the second floor, so we're providing shared collaboration space on the first floor. So you'll gain 7 medium conference rooms and 1 large conference room, plus a break room. Similar scope as before, just replicated on the first floor.
And then similar to the second floor, we have the same scope of replacing heat pumps, LED lighting upgrades, seismic bracing of the sprinkler piping, and replacing the ceiling.
And this is the construction timeline that we recommend for the projects. We have council chambers, workspaces, and the mayor's seated administrator workspaces. So as previously discussed, we recommend a virtual period to decommission the existing equipment and chambers in November of this year, which would commence in January, so that you could be operational in the temporary chambers from January to January of the full year. And so construction activities in this space would occur from November until October. And then we would allow for about a month and a half of commissioning of the space, testing to make sure it's all ready for chambers to be operational in November of 2024. The workspaces we're sequencing along with construction of chambers. So you would move out so it's a 2-week period that we're showing there, the first 2 weeks of January. And but the impact of your office would only be that you would move out on a Friday and move in on a Monday. So it's not the 2-week period that you would be out of commission. We just want to be clear that it would be phased over 2 weeks amongst all the offices. And then you would be in the construction activities of the workspaces would be from January until November, similar to above. And that's reflected very close to the mayor and the council.
So I think that's the end of our recommended course of action, and we'll hand it back to you.
Great, all right, so colleagues, that's where we are. We have sort of the recommended layout. Robert has told us what our next step is, which is to accept a report or not accept a report. And Robert, amongst those options, I also assume that if a majority of council did not support the recommendations, an alternative report could be put forward, or what happens if the council does not reach agreement on the report?
You know, my recommendation would be, since the ordinance contemplates a contract for the chamber's work and the contract for the council office's work, if it seems that council would come to approve one and not approve the other, I would suggest we bring two separate reports so those issues could be handled separately. And then if one of those is not approved by the council, then I think the thing to do then would be for an alternative to come forward, either in the form of a substitute report or a different resolution by council giving some other direction. And then what would also be important, just I think as a practical matter, is to have the conversation with the contractor and the designers, and I think we have some of them here today, but you know, to see if those alternatives are possible and if they can get done.
And that's helpful. So I did ask that the CMGC be present today, and I think we gave them a grand total of 3 hours to participate, and so I'm extremely grateful. Would you like to make the introductions?
Sure. We have Megan and Bill here. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Megan Cook-Eichelberger. I'm a project manager for Howard S. Wright. So I'm the main point of contact for the charter reform project from Howard S. Wright. And then Bill, I'll let him introduce himself.
Bill Jensen, Howard S. Wright, pre-construction and estimating.
Thank you. And I want to acknowledge the work you've already done and appreciate it. I want to thank you again for being here on relatively short notice as well. Well, actually, yes, on very short notice. But if people have specific construction or design-related questions, I wanted to make sure that you were here and represented.
Happy to be here.
Great. Colleagues, any questions?
I have a couple.
Thanks.
And my questions will largely just deal with how space is used. And for me, it might be really helpful to just, why don't we start at the third floor and then work our way down. I'll tell you, intuitively, I don't quite understand the graphics. So who's going to be where and what? So maybe can we pull up whatever you think is the most helpful depiction of what's happening on the third floor? Okay. So we have that over there. I guess I can kind of understand. One of the things I'm not understanding here is, do you define where the mayor's office space ends and the city? Are we imagining the city administrator and the mayor to share this same space?
So the two dark blue regions on either corner are private offices. The one on the top right is for the city administrator, and the one in the bottom corner, lower right, is for the mayor, where they currently are.
Okay, so I got it. Mayor's office is roughly the same. We add the city administrator over where maybe it's at Bobby's office now. And those other offices along each wall are either mayoral staff or city administrator staff. Is that the kind of vision?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And if I could just jump in, Commissioner, the city administrator's office is depicted here. It's Bobby's office, but slightly larger. Not to dismiss Bobby or his fabulous office, but it's not large enough to hold a table, a conference table. And we felt that just as there is space in the mayor's office we felt that the city administrator should have a space for their staff to hold meetings in the city administrator's office. But the concept is they would share space because the mayor will be the supervisor of the city administrator, and we assume there will be a tremendous amount of interaction under the new form of government as there is, frankly, today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's very helpful. As part of this process, I think we were promised a staffing study that gave us a sense of how many folks would work in the mayor's office, and I assume the city administrator's office. I don't think I've seen that yet. Has that been produced yet, and how does that relate to the office cubes that I see on this slide?
Yeah, sure, Commissioner Maps. For the record, Barry Pack with the Mayor's Office. That report is coming to you as part of the fiscal statement to the City Org resolution. You have a draft of that in your possession now. We'll be bringing an updated version next week to the work session on the 23rd. Specifically to this space, that work plan envisioned 5 staff for the mayor, a chief of staff, an administrative support position, and 3 mayor aide positions. So the chief of staff would be in the light blue office adjacent to the mayor, and the other staff would be in an open workspace next to the mayor. The city administrator has an assistant city administrator and 6 deputies in the current proposal. And so there are office space for that if that's the way we choose to go. Or those offices the deputies may want to be in the Portland building, and those offices could be used for other purposes inside the building. So as Randy indicated, we're very early in the programming stage for this office as we continue to have conversations and frankly as council makes decisions on where it wants to go.
Okay, thank you. And the gray half of this graphic, this is the auditor and the city attorneys is what's happening in that space?
So on the 3rd floor, the rest of the space is the Rose Room and the auditors in the balcony above us, as well as the restrooms and back of house space.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we go to floor 2, whichever graphic makes sense? Okay. So if I were to count up
So do you mean the existing or the new?
the proposed,
This is the proposed.
okay, maybe that's the difference, what I didn't catch here. So if I were to count this up, there are 12, how many offices are there in this graphic?
I have the program listed out on the right corner. You can see counselor offices, there are 12. And then dedicated staff, there are also 12.
Okay. Has there been any, at least under our current form of government, there are some, we try to avoid having more than 3 of us in the same room at any given time because of quorum issues or quorum and public meeting rules and whatnot. Has there been any thought to how that works in this setup?
Yes, and I can touch on this, or maybe Barry can as well. We reviewed that during our programming phase, and from what I understand, it's 7. And so you can see on each half of the floor plan, we have 6 counselors on each side.
Okay. And so, can you remind me again what the staffing pattern for future city commissioners looks like?
Sure,
Or
Commissioner
proposed
Howell.
staff pattern, whatever.
As proposed, that decision has yet to be made and will be made as part of the budget process. But as proposed in the org chart and the resolution that's coming, you have a counselor with the salary set by the salary commission, a senior council aide, which is the equivalent of a chief of staff, and then a second position for each counselor of a council aide. Each district would have a shared administrative support position, and that position with the 3 council aides, 1 per counselor, would be in that open workspace. So you'd have counselor with an adjoining office for their senior council aide, and then 1 space in the open workspace.
Okay, thank you, that's very helpful. And let's go to the first floor now. So the only change here is you guys are going in and reconfiguring the old Civic Life offices?
Yes.
Okay.
So where that large blue box is,
Yeah.
that's where former 2 smaller offices are. So we're planning to demo those 2 offices to create a large conference room, but all of the light blue spaces and the yellow are existing spaces that we're just reprogramming to be medium conference rooms or the break room.
Caitlin, we actually add one of the medium on the top left. There isn't a wall
Oh,
there.
yeah, we do enclose that space, so that's non-existing.
Thank you very much. And what's the vision for the rest of, we probably got about 70% of our floor space kind of in, what's the vision for the rest of the first floor? Wow.
This is it. This is the project. So we're not proposing working in any other affected areas. So what the rest of the first floor is, to respond to your question, is the independent police review, the auditors, we have the city attorney, paralegals, as well as a couple of locations of securities is in, as well as back-of-house facility spaces. So we have a facilities office.
Okay, thank you very much. And the last questions might be most appropriately directed, I think, to our contractor here. So we're doing significant renovations on about a third to half of the building. This building's been around for a long time. I recognize it's a workspace, so we need to have it actually outfitted so it meets the needs of the day. I'll be, as I think I've shared in this space before, I recognize that. At the same time, I do consider this to be a historic building and whatnot. Can you give us an overview of which pieces of this building are sort of historically important and we should try to preserve? And maybe that's a good way to start. I don't know if that's a contractor question or a staff
Let me
question.
jump in here.
Yeah.
So again, the exterior of the building is the historic component of the building. The interior was renovated in the 90s. So again, it's been about 30 years since our last renovation, so we're due for another one, as you can see from the condition of the interior facilities.
Sure.
However, it isn't historic inside. It has historic-looking features, but it's not historic interior.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate you walking me through the proposal one more time. I think that's all the questions I have at the moment.
I'll start with thank you for this work. You've done a lot of work, you can tell. I did want to ask you if you considered more meeting spaces. That's what we use the most. I think our conference room is the one that's used the most. And when I look at this, I see break room, I see a phone room. What's the phone room?
So when we are right-sizing the counselor office on the corner, it's the existing commissioner space, so it's much larger. And so to allow for shared collaboration space, we wanted to allocate that for a phone room, especially because there was concerns that we heard during our programming reviews that, if they use the open office space, those 6 workstations that are communal, that they might need space to have a private conversation. So we wanted to give that program.
Private phone room for the
Yeah.
up to 4 people who are in the open space?
No, it's just for a single person.
No, I didn't mean all 4 would go in there and have a private conversation at the same time.
I mean, they could.
But there are 4 people that would maybe desire to have that. I was trying to follow along with why this space is here.
Yes.
Because the other people would need that since they have an office. Okay, got it.
But all in
there's
all,
there's no meeting rooms then?
well, the first floor is dedicated space for all the counselors. So you have
First
a
floor?
net gain, yes, a net gain of conference rooms with the first floor
Am I
space.
the only one that's curious about those? Did you know there were meeting rooms on the first floor? Okay.
That's part of our renovation scope that we're proposing. So existing civic life space is unused currently, and we are allocating the current offices, which are there, to be medium conference rooms. So currently you have 4 medium conference rooms per counselor or commissioner. And then with the new design that we're proposing, you'll have 7 on the lower level, plus the large conference.
Currently, we have how many?
Well, you have one conference room per counselor or
Right.
commissioner,
I thought you said 4, that's why I was startled.
4 on the second floor.
or on the second floor.
Oh, got it, 1 per area, yeah, office, okay. All right, I guess that was one thing that startled me, is that we didn't have as many. I think all of us use our conference rooms quite a bit, and so I can't imagine that they wouldn't want that.
Sure. Yeah, we definitely got that feedback during the design review meetings that we had with staff, that that was a high priority.
It is a high priority. And it's on the first floor?
Yes. Do we want to pull up that floor plan?
I guess if it was a high priority, I'd assumed it would have been on the same floor. That would be my only real feedback that stuck out to me. And
We
it
did
sounds like you've
explore-
had some robust dialogue about this as well. So this has
Yeah.
been confusing for all of you as well.
We did explore other programs or layouts where there may be a conference room on the second floor, but that was a more reconfiguration of the spaces. So with what we're proposing now is minimal impact and reuse and a reprogramming of existing spaces. And so that's why we reallocated the existing conference rooms to be counselor offices.
And then all of them have their, as you called, their chief of staff equivalent with a door next to it, except the ones in the middle. And they walk across and go find their person across the hall.
That is the only
I guess we draw straws on that, huh? Okay. All right, just digging in, because that's what we do with these work sessions. Okay. I think those are my only questions about the designs that were given to me today. Or yesterday.
On the, I guess focusing on the second floor for a second, what other cities did you look to in terms of how they organize their legislative function? Because I'll tell you, some feedback from some long-term staffers looking at our existing space and how we interact within our quadrants, right? There is a good degree of interest in confidentiality, that those conversations stay within your team. And when I think forward to 3 council members from the same district, but potentially very different politics, right? Sharing a quadrant, we were sitting there going, how's that exactly going to work? And we're just trying to visualize, you could have this is City of Portland, so the most centrist and the most, progressive council people theoretically being elected from the same district and being next to each other with potentially wanting to meet with very different groups as, time goes by. And I guess I was just curious who else you look to in design of the legislative function and, what lessons were learned from that.
Our primary focus was doing chambers research. I think the intent of the project is to have it ready for the new counselors without making big changes to the existing space to limit the funding that we're expending on this project.
Commissioner Gonzalez, if I can answer as well, that's from the design perspective, but from the transition project, we look at a number of cities across the country, Milwaukee, Baltimore, Oakland, I think Austin, a lot of cities that have mayor-council forms of government for best practices. What makes Portland's style of doing this different is the multi-represented districts. There is no other jurisdiction that has multiple councilors representing a single district. So there's no place to go to look for that best practice in terms of physical space and how they interact to each other. But that's why we wanted to make sure there were at least 2 private offices for each councilor that were, for the most part, adjoining, but were adjacent to each other so that there could be that confidential conversation occurring.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that what sort of, again, we don't know, so I guess we're all sort of sitting here trying to project out a scenario. Where this ended up going as we were kind of talking through this was that, well, you're likely going to see people that if they want a confidential meeting, they're going to go do it at a Starbucks or they're going to do it someplace else. I don't know if that's the optimal outcome, but I just, as we're thinking about design, just put that out there. Yeah, I kind of leave it at that as we're thinking through it. I'm not sure I have any other particular questions on this layout. I mean, my more general commentary is that I'm concerned about a rush to put this in place because I'm not sure we know how this is actually going to work, but that's not a critique. I don't know that I have any better ideas other than what I just observed here.
I do think we'll also benefit from the in-district offices that we're taking flight on right now.
Right.
I think that will be beneficial. We also talked about meeting rooms. There's not a lot of knowledge about this, but there's a very large floor of meeting rooms on the second floor of the Portland building that can be used for anybody. And I think that would be an ideal location if there's overflow or a need for a truly confidential meeting downtown. So that is, I think there's probably almost 15 conference rooms over there that are available for use and checkout.
Manny, that's a great observation. Do you have a sense of what utilization is on those conference rooms right now? I mean, that's where our temporary office was for when we were
Yeah.
onboarding, and
It's-
they're great conference rooms over there.
It's rapidly increasing. So, I think that was one of the detours we made in this project is when we started, the return to work piece was still kicking in. So we weren't seeing a lot of utilization over there, for example, at the Leah Hing Room. I would say in the last few months, it's always busy. There's always somebody in there. Same thing is happening with the second floor rooms. For a period of time, I realized we had second floor rooms, which I didn't realize. And now I'm noticing that they're getting more and more difficult to check out. So there is a check-in, check-out system. There's reservations we could monkey with to help set aside rooms for council if needed. But I do feel like I'm seeing all of those rooms, whether it's Leah Hing, Lizzie Weeks, 15th floor, second floor, they're all, definitely being put to use. So I don't know. I don't have the rate though.
So this brings up an interesting point. So I think we heard from facilities in the last session that we're seeing utilization in the Portland building in the 30%. Was that?
Yeah, I think 34, and that's right on par. Rick checked into it. That's right on par with sort of the national average downtown.
And is that inclusive of conference room space, or is that private office utilization?
I don't think we would have the number for private offices. My guess is the data is based on badge swipes, so we can see what percentage of folks are swiping in and swiping out and comprising a full day. So there's the 50% rule right now. There's a number of exceptions that have been granted, so that 34% is probably right around what could be expected with the rule as it is right now.
I mean, I think it'd be interesting to test, and this is geeking out on projections, so just take it with a grain of salt, but if we have data that supports that we're getting 34% utilization in office space as a whole, then it might be fair to project that we're getting about 34% of the shared space that we were projecting. Of course, we may have better data that tells us more definitively. I just putting that out, to me, that seems like a reasonable projection. Absent there being some other behaviors that are shifting that, but I'll leave it at that. That's a guessing game.
Back to the conference rooms, I was asking about this earlier because we use them quite a bit, and I was told that we average about 5 meetings in the conference room a day, anywhere from a half hour to an hour. So if you times that by 3 or by 12, that's a lot of need for that. So I still want to let you know that I think you might have a design challenge there in terms of productivity, which is why we're here. We want us to be productive through the rest of this term. Many of us two of us were elected for 4 years, but we've gone with the flow and we'll be here only for 2 in this role. And we want to make sure that we're productive till the end. And we want the new people to come on and be productive as well. That's the puzzle we're trying to do. And so I just can't emphasize enough how important those conference rooms are and meeting spaces are. Because on a good day, we collaborate and we meet with our constituents. Yeah.
Actually, I had one follow-up question. And not that we have to set this definitively now, but have you guys looked at mixing this space not by geographical region to have another mechanism for, selecting office space? Especially we have district offices, right? There's space to collaborate as a district. I just don't know how else you do it, so I don't have like a great idea. We're pretty much all one party in this town, so it's it's not like you'd have a Republican and Democrat. It's like Democrat, darker blue and lighter blue. I don't know. So I guess that's just I just was curious if you considered any other organization other than geography here.
Yeah, Commissioner Gonzalez, I mean, that's an interesting question. I think we sort of started from the premise that you have 4 districts, you've got 4 corner office suites now. That just makes sense. What we have is a design that can accommodate 12 counselors. Where you put them and how you organize them could be up for debate. And as someone noted, there are 2 council offices in each suite that don't have adjoining staff offices next to them. They also don't have an exterior window. They have a window into the atrium, but not into the exterior. So as much as the design is trying to achieve equitable office space for each elected, just the physical limitations of the building don't allow for that. So we're going to have to figure out who's going to get, like I think Commissioner Ryan, you said you draw straws, right? Well, maybe position numbers get assigned to an office, and if you run for that position, you get that office, and it doesn't matter what district you're in or what continuum of the political spectrum you personally represent. I think that's something that can be decided in the future. The design just allows for 12 council members.
And I just want to, I don't have any better ideas for organizing the space. I just
Give a brilliant idea, let us know.
Consider alternatives.
Yeah, let me jump in on this because this is interesting. There's 2 examples I would point to. Number one, the legislature. Their office is, it's much larger, but they're configured somewhat similarly to this. They do try to put people of similar persuasions in similar places, but the reality is there are people mixing and matching all day long in the corridors. And unless something dramatic has changed since I was last there is a strong culture of nobody comments on the makeup of anybody who is coming into the building to meet with elected officials. There is very much a culture of everybody should be allowed to come into the State House. Everybody should be allowed on the legislative floors. Everybody should have the opportunity to meet with whoever the heck they want to meet with. And I believe that sort of a culture will permeate here as well, because it doesn't work otherwise. Then I'll give you a very personal, practical example. When I was at Multnomah County, the Multnomah County chair and the commissioners all sit on the same floor, and their staff sit in a very open configuration, and everybody sees everybody who comes and everybody who goes, and you know who's meeting with whom when. And again, in the years I was there, that was never a problem, and I haven't heard of it ever being a problem. Again, we just assume that there are diverse opinions in the community, diverse perspectives, and they all have a right to be heard in this building or any other building of government. So I'm just hopeful that people will elect people who would not see that as a problem.
Mayor, do you want an editorial on how much more effective the city operates in the county? Currently, I'll leave it at that.
I'll not take that bait.
Sure. Here, maybe I can jump in here. We probably have spent enough time on this topic, but I will seek some clarifications. And here, I'll probably call on Robert to clarify things. I guess it's my understanding that council decides where Chambers is. So a majority can decide the park across the street is Chambers for functional reasons, and that's where we are. And the mayor, on the other hand, has the power to basically move people's offices to whether it be the Portland building, the 1900 building, this building. Is that correct?
Can I jump in on that?
Sure.
Well, I'll let Robert answer. He's the attorney, but the answer is I can evict anybody anytime I want, but then I lose control of my budget. So
Yeah.
the power of the purse is where the action is. That's the game. But I'll let Robert answer from a legal perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The city code says that council will meet in the council chambers. Council, by motion, can decide to meet elsewhere as long as it's within the city limits. So the council can decide where the council wants to meet. Currently, under the city code, the Office of Management and Finance is effectively the landlord of City Hall, and so they can make those property management decisions. The mayor has mentioned the political realities of those decisions. Also, that authority by OMF over City Hall is a creature of the city code, and the city council could change the city code and give some other entity power to make those decisions.
Thank you very much. And the principle I was building towards is I'm not too worried about people seeing who future counselors seeing who each other are meeting with. However, it strikes me as very probable over the course of the next 100 years, you'll have two commissioners from the same district who really don't get along well and probably shouldn't be neighbors. And I think, although I don't know, I'm not entirely positive about this. I believe that problem actually happens in the House of Representatives on occasion, where two members of Congress hate each other, and it becomes a livability and safety problem. And I believe in that case, sometimes I assume it's the Speaker of the House, actually moves two people to different sides of the building. So I hope that we don't encounter that, but I would expect that should something like that happen in the future, the mayor would retain the power to make people move or suggest that people move to different spaces.
Commissioner,
If I were mayor, I'd move them into the same office.
If I may respond, Commissioner,
Yeah.
one of the things that the broader transition team has contemplated is what role the council president might play
Yeah.
in assigning offices as they would in seating around the dais and all of that, so.
But that sounds like a wise practice to me. I don't know if a future mayor wants to be handing out
That's probably just as well.
office spaces, and when we haven't even gotten to the point of talking about parking spaces, where I think things will get quite lively.
No,
Good
are we
point.
done future tripping about the personalities of the people being elected? I don't think that's very productive. Yeah.
Good. Commissioner Rubio, I don't want to leave you out of this. If you had any questions at this juncture?
Not yet, no.
Okay, good. And colleagues, I wanted to leave plenty of space. I was in receipt of a proposal that you'd sent me as an alternative to the staff proposal. I wanted to at least give space to discuss that if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, I want to raise this question. I confess I've been very busy for the past, since the last time we came together. It's my rough recollection that the last time we came together in a work session, which I think was probably 7 days ago, the timing for when commissioners exit this building is different from the timing that we see today. I'm not 100% sure of that. I was wondering if there was any discussion about that, or how we got here, or if that's even accurate.
Yeah, can I just ask a question? Mayor, when you're referring, are you referring to the October 10th proposal that came from?
I don't remember the exact date. You sent me a proposal. It was signed by 4 commissioners.
I think that's the
As an
October 10th.
alternative.
I just wanted to
Okay.
be clear. So yes, to Commissioner Mapps's, the timeline articulated there for our offices is a very different timeline than is put forth on that screen.
And if I may just clarify, Commissioner, the work sessions we've had to date have been to share the plan as developed by the transition team. The council did not come to a resolution on dates for council offices. You did all agree about council chambers in the last work session, but we pushed off the council's workspace conversation to today for purposes of having enough time.
Yeah, I have a question related to council offices. I appreciated, I think it was this week, the mayor was invited to look at all of our offices. We were trying to save us money, and we thought that we could adapt to the really lovely spaces that currently exist that have been remodeled in the last 2 years. I don't know the exact dollar amount, but there was money spent on that, obviously. Did you get anything from those tours that allowed you to think differently about spending as much money as they are proposing here to adapt to the current space that we have in each chamber, in each suite?
Well, as I really wanted to check out the lay of the land. I wanted to see the details, including the heat exchangers. I wanted to see what the current security arrangements were versus what was proposed, and I know we don't necessarily wish to discuss that in public. I wanted to see what the differences in the configuration of offices were, and they are very different configurations. I also wanted to see what was on the first floor. I haven't been down there in many, many years. And so I wanted to see the viability of the conference rooms. And honestly, as I came out of it, there was very little that changed my mind in terms of my support for the staff's recommendation. I was listening for extraneous, unnecessary, or potentially expensive renovations that wouldn't be required, and I know that's something everybody has mentioned
Yeah, that's been our
as a
goal.
core priority, and frankly, the reconfiguration that was required was less than I would have anticipated. We're just getting into the part about the third floor, but the third floor, as far as I can tell, we can pretty much do it all with 2 walls, right? I mean, it's going to be a much lighter touch than I expected. A lot of the expenditure, I was surprised how much of it's just basic infrastructure that's going to be required, whether the offices are renovated or not. We've got, how many heat exchangers that are now obsolete? 49? 47?
Yeah, in the scope of work, it's 46.
46, okay, I was pretty close. Yeah.
So you didn't see anything that allowed you to, most of us didn't know there was already a plan for these offices. We saw it this week, of course, after those meetings, but I think, at least my perception was that when you did the tour, you would maybe have some ahas about saving some more money and adapting to the current spaces.
Well, yeah, I mean, sure, there's some basic stuff. Like three of the offices appear to have new carpeting. There's furniture that I think can be repurposed, although I think the recommendation in the interest of equity is clear the deck and get everybody the same furniture so people don't argue over that. Yeah.
No, I've been working really hard for the last few transitions to get us this new Portland Building City Standards, and we've managed to accommodate that in most of them. Gonzalez's is a complete package, so the furniture that I've been purchasing with Ben Smith over the last 4 years, we will be reusing, in addition to reusing Peabod's furniture as they vacate a lease space.
Yeah, I mean, we're somewhat hemmed in. I mean, if we want 12 offices plus a private workspace plus shared office space, I'm not really sure how, I'm not a designer, these guys are, they do it for a living. I'm not sure how I would configure it differently.
Well, I think.
And it seemed like they were being very realistic about what gets reused. I concur that the carpet in Commissioner Mapp's office isn't as nice as, I mean, it's old. That carpet's probably been there for 30 years, would be my guess, and it's ratty, and people are going to trip over the tears in it and everything else. So that one definitely has to be replaced, but the others look good.
Yeah,
It's
I mean-
definitely a minimal touch. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
that was
not
my
trying
impression.
to be excessive, so.
What I think just to build off what Commissioner Ryan was getting at, I think there was a hope that, this body again has the ability to designate where council meets. And we offered, in response to facilities work, we offered a proposal that would allow that to go forward earlier than is mandated by any legal requirement. In exchange, we kind of offered, we value the work we do. Simply put, we answer citizens' concerns every single day. I'm very focused on public safety. My colleagues are working very hard for the city every day. And we're trying to minimize the negative impact on our ability to operate in the short window we have. And so I think that the hope was finding ways to utilize that space January 1, 2025 as secondary offices, not as primary offices for new council people without disrupting our ability to operate and in this period. And just to build off of Commissioner Mapp's point, again, we agreed or articulated support for an early construction on council chamber, but again, to me, there was an expectation that there would be a balancing of interest and disruption, and that meant keeping our space until January 1, 2025, which is not reflected on the screen.
Thank you for that summary, Commissioner Gonzalez. So to put it into plain language, the basic vision here is that members of council move out of this building basically for the rest of our terms starting January 1st, 2024, so a couple of weeks from now. We don't actually return ever again. Then we move to the 1900 building. And I'm looking over at my staff. We've toured the 1900 building, or did we tour the Portland building? Okay, thank you. And the other bit of new information here is, I think when we got together last week, the mayor raised the possibility that his office would move too. Here it looks like that's that's part of the proposal. So the mayor moves out at the early in the new year, and the mayor basically doesn't come back to this building. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's also correct. So the mayor and city administrator workspaces were always part of what we considered phase one, but they weren't included in the two CMGC, the CMGC ordinance, GMP1, GMP2, because we didn't know what the scope was for city administrator's office. And so we kind of pitched that one out and said, we'll get to that when we get to it. With information coming in about that scope, it helps us define the design program. And the design seems to be going quickly enough that we would prefer to bring it into 2024 if we could, because that is where we get a lot of efficiencies. So we work with Howard S. Wright to understand things like mobilization, permitting, all of the types of things that have to be done for any project. Being able to do them kind of layered in the same year is what makes it more affordable. So rather than expending more costs by pushing it to 2025, if we have the scope and we have the design, we'd love to pull it into 2024. So that would come forward, I think, as a new CMGC an amendment to that, to add that work in 2024.
Okay. Does the mayor also go to the 1900 building?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I toured the space with some members of my staff, and we're good to go. If it saves money, we're ready to go.
All right.
Yeah, I don't
Got
think
my
my
bag
staff
packed.
is, or others that toured, just to be clear. We got pretty strong feedback negatively on that, but just to put it out there.
Okay,
I got a sense from your team was a similar response, but.
Thank you. Yeah, my chief of staff has taken a look at that space. I haven't at some point. It would probably be good, especially the fact that we are in late October and we're talking about an early January move. I'd like to do a tour, so I'm sure I can work with the people over there. And not only am I interested in my space, I'd be interested in other people's spaces too, just how council offices interact. It's not uncommon at all for staff or commissioners to just walk across the hall to sort stuff out. But we can find some time for that.
So I would just caution us here. The space that we are looking at is currently at least partially occupied by city employees. And so I would just caution us how we characterize the workspace as the elected officials who oversee 7,000 employees in this city.
Can I be crystal clear on what the concerns were on that point, Mayor?
Yeah,
That is
please.
actually precisely the concern, that the nature of some of our work is highly confidential, and to be mingled with bureau staff was one of the material concerns. It wasn't a fundamental problem with the space for working in. It was the commingling of the work we do with bureau staff. So it's not putting down the space in an objective sense. It is unique to how electeds work.
I'm going to pivot us a bit. So if I look this way and not at you, don't take it personally. Thank you for all the work that you're doing on this project. So this council is working really well together on the priorities facing our city, right? The priorities of homelessness, the drug crisis, the poisonous drugs on our streets, public safety. And yet I'm in I don't know how many hours on doing interior design work for how we stay productive through the end and going into the next council. We have made concessions and adapted. We brought to everyone's attention that it might be a good idea to have the new council have a home in their districts. That was the spirit of the charter review, to have districts collaborate together. That's why they wanted 3, not 1 per district, and to collaborate within the geographic area. So I appreciate that you adapted with us when we brought that up. And then you look at all of us who are working our tails off, focusing on the priorities of our city. Our goal is to remain engaged and focused and strategically aligned as we keep moving the ball down the field for our city at this time. And so the more disruptions make that more and more and more challenging. So we are up here trying to be really sincere, focused public servants throughout the tenure of our jobs. And then I started to think, this came to me recently as in that tour with you, it was called the infrastructure tour. And it was really well done. That's the first time I met you, Maddie, and I really enjoyed that tour. And it was also alarming on our infrastructure needs. And so thanks to my chief of staff, we did a little digging. I'm like, where was that lovely handout that you provided? And so it just made me get a little wound up about where our priorities are. So I'm hearing on page 17 of that tour, you talked about the Kirby Garage. And we all know that's home to City Fleet. Commissioner Mapps knows this quite well with the several PBOT divisions. It was built in 1922. That's what you told us. And it lacks modern safety systems, most notably an automated fire and life safety system. The building located in a landslide zone, also as a failing roof and HVAC system, outdated electrical, and is functionally obsolete. I'm almost done for modern use. As $17 million in code, safety, and structural repairs are needed, none of which address landside, layout, or green fleet needs. The Kirby facility is impacted by very unequal facility conditions compared to some asset classes, such as downtown offices, which are quite nice, while others are substandard, obsolete, and potentially unsafe. And then we, of course, had a really sad incident that just occurred there. So I just start to think, what are our priorities? So we're making sure that the new council has 2 offices when they begin on the 1st. Everything will be perfect for them, and yet we have these other big infrastructure needs for other employees that are serving our city in case like there's a catastrophe that are completely ill-equipped. So I just started thinking about the irony that I'm sitting in these meetings doing the best I can to be a team player, to make concessions so that we can remain effective in our jobs until the very end of this term, and then have a nice pivot to the new council where they would have great offices out in their districts and then have a chance to help build their new offices in City Hall. So I'm just saying the spirit of being mission-driven as a public servant at this time when the city's in crisis. And I just hope that we can continue to collaborate and know that we're on the same team, focused on the priorities of the city, and not have whatever this is bring tension and division at a time where we don't need it over something like this. So I just had to say my piece on that, since this is like my 4th meeting on a topic which I would rather have work sessions on fentanyl or something really, really important that's facing our city at this time. Thank you. Had to get that out.
Well said.
Is this a good moment to mention that we're hoping to bring forward an ordinance on the Kirby Garage? So, yeah, we are actually exploring an alternative space for them. The Kirby Garage's roof has started to fail, and that is what is going to trigger the 20 million probably at this point in upgrades. So we are actively seeking an alternative location for that. We're working on pricing, and we'll also be bringing that forward because it is important to us, and so I'm grateful to.
And this isn't
Sorry to capture the moment, but yes, that would be a great investment.
We're the elected by the entire city to stay focused on the priorities of our city, and we're making certain that we don't have too much lag in between the transition. And so we need to be adaptable, and I thought we were being adaptable by offering the district offices and then us staying focused in our places until the end of the fiscal year. That was the spirit of the email that was sent to you. So this is a collaboration, and we're all trying to be adaptable together.
So maybe this, I don't know if this is a question for our transition team or if it's a question maybe for our CMGC folks. What are the consequences, if any, of delaying that decision?
Yeah, and just to go back to that risk profile question to begin with, Commissioner Ryan is correct. We do have different assets that have different degrees of risk, and I think a lot of them need to have action taken. As part of that mission, when we have to address issues that come up, and I would say we push council and City Hall needs to the front of the line because we felt compelled to take action based on the changes coming. Part of the reason, I guess, we've been encouraging the 2024 construction timeline is because it is cheaper to do the work in 2024 than to do 2025. So when we have...
Why is that?
Yeah, well, I'll let these folks
Projections
also...
about inflation? I'm just curious.
Inflation's part of it, but there's also just pure escalation costs. So when you break the project into two parts, you end up with redundancy in the construction means and methods that you wouldn't have otherwise. So you have mobilization, which is the deployment of demolition crews and construction crews and trades. That's all now happening twice versus once. I'll let Megan speak to this. She's the expert, but there's the long and the short of it is with a very limited pot of funding, we try to do work as efficiently as possible, and thus the 2024 proposal. Both of you can speak to all of the escalation costs better than I can.
Before you go in the deeper piece, I appreciate that, and I'm looking for the detailed answer here. I do want to call out that there are ongoing efficiencies in the commission form of government being able to operate effectively to the end of our term. And so I fully grasp the facility perspective. I look forward to the details here genuinely, but I do want to separate what is our responsibility as electeds and the responsibility of facilities and staff to do exactly what you're doing, analyzing the financial impact. But I worry here at a level that we've over-delegated to the administration these type of considerations. There is a genuine interest on the items that Commissioner Ryan articulated in addressing the crisis on our streets, and there are numerous ones right now. So I look forward to the detail, but the financial impact of construction is but one means of answering this question, and we have a different responsibility.
So, and we can agree to disagree, but I still don't understand the logic of what you're saying. Because what I've heard from our facilities experts is the transition would take place over the course of one weekend. I don't see how that is disruptive to the agenda of this council. And I served on this council for 2 years while City Hall was completely shut down.
And
So
I did for a year, and it wasn't as productive when we were on virtual meetings.
Well, we're not proposing that. We're proposing to move into an alternative space, which would require you to move over the course of a weekend.
I would just observe that this space, this second floor, was specifically designed to facilitate the commission form of government. And for those listening at home, there are little details that were built so that we could collaborate. There's a back door between Commissioner Ryan and my office. There's a back door between Commissioner Mapp and Commissioner Rubio's office. Those were designed to facilitate collaboration in the commission form of government. I would say up until the last 3 weeks where we really got off kilter, specifically on this transition, we were working very, very effectively as a building and on confronting the crisis. So that's, to me, part of it's the building, part of it's the attitude, and I'm concerned this over-delegation has ignored the benefits of both the existing space and the good spirit we had been building as a council up until this point.
So I want to be clear, the delegation was made by the council in the ordinance. We delegated this authority to the chief administrative officer. We did that.
We preserved all budgetary and code authority in that delegation
We
of authority.
authorized $6.2 million to these individuals for a CMGC contract to renovate the chamber and establish 12 council offices, all of which would be operational and tested by January 1st, 2025. That is the black and white wording of the ordinance.
I don't want to relitigate the beginning part of the presentation, but we authorized a process, not a plan. And the fact that we are this misaligned at this late in the year is why I conclude you over delegated on this. We should have been stakeholders in ongoing, we shouldn't be presented with plans that are so misaligned with your fellow commissioners or your colleagues here. And that's the extent of the
Barry, how many meetings have there been in terms of open meetings, work sessions, invitations to council to participate on this subject?
I believe the team met with, or offered to meet with each office 4 times through the design phase. Caitlin, do you want to
Sure,
summarize a little bit more?
we had 2 meetings during programming and schematics, and then we did 1 joint meeting with all the commissioner offices. So that's a total of, 2 per plus 1 combined. Some were canceled, but we met with most offices.
And I want to be clear, this isn't a critique of your work. This is that we are this misaligned as a council on this subject. We've provided consistent feedback. We didn't want our existing operations negatively impacted to the maximum extent possible. And I would have just as soon let you guys go do what you're going to do as long as we can operate as a team. And yet we're presented with plan, notwithstanding that consistent feedback, that maximizes the disruption from my vantage point of the existing form of government. And that's why we're misaligned.
So we have our expert CMGC folks here. Megan, I don't think you got to give your 2 cents here.
Sure.
And since you actually do this for a living, I think it would be helpful to hear from you.
Sure. Megan Cook-Eichelberger, Howard is right. So what I can speak to is I can just speak to the construction process. And what we have here is we have renovation work that needs to happen within the same building in 2 different spaces. There's a significant amount of work that has to happen in this chambers area. The work, though, that's in the chambers is very similar to some of the work that's in the offices. So what we have gone with through the proposal is to do these jobs concurrently, because that effectively manages the GC time on site. This is an important job for us, so we're going to staff it accordingly. Like, we're going to have a full-time superintendent. So if we're able to do the chambers and roll those subs directly into, from demo to the chambers to demo to the offices to demo to Suite 110, that just makes our process more effective. It makes our time on site less time. Basically, what we were looking at is being able to complete the chambers and all of the office work in the same duration. If we were to separate the chambers from the office work, it almost doubles the time that Howard S. Wright would be on site here, effectively costing more dollars because, again, the overhead cost to have that management on site is just a reality of construction, and we want to make sure the job gets done correctly. The other thing that we have to think about is that, we have high MWESB goals on this job, and so we want to make sure that we're able to gain that interest for the job and then keep it. And sometimes it's hard if there's a job and then a break. You basically have to treat it as 2 separate projects. And so that effort to really rebid and re-engage people can sometimes be challenging. It's a matter of efficiencies. And so I'm sure everyone can appreciate the market right now, and it's just a reality also that if you do work sooner than later, you have the ability to lock in prices that potentially could increase over a period of time. Do you have anything
Bill
to add?
Jensen, Howard S. Wright. I'm going to add just a couple of things. The efficiency was not just an hour supervision cost, but that trickles down to the subcontractors as well. Because, and especially in our case, though, we're not going to put someone on a project like this half-time because there's half the work. On a private sector job in a private office building, we might do that, but that is certainly not something we would want to do on a project like this. The other part of the question, I don't know if was a talk about escalation. We still are experiencing some escalation. We are typically forecasting 4 to 5%. Majority of that is labor cost. This project, of course, is prevailing wage, and the wages do periodically go up 3 to 4% per year. So, the escalation is certainly not what it was 2-3 years ago, but that factor is still something we strongly recommend our clients fold into their cost forecasts.
So let me ask you a question out of left field. So you've heard my colleagues express, I think, legitimate concerns about cost, and we are trying to be as cost-effective as possible. Are there ideas that you could potentially bring to the table as to how we could reduce the cost of this project?
I do. So I think through the process, we are still early in design. We are still really defining what we are going to pursue with the job. Quite frankly, I'm holding a lot of allowances right now just because we're still working through those details. So I think there's absolutely opportunity to really nail down the budget and get us to where we absolutely know we've covered the scope that we need to and that we're not holding any kind of a contingency for things unknown. I think Holst is doing a great job working through that. There's a lot of audio-visual work that goes into a space like this. There's a lot of unknowns that go along with that scope of work. And so I think through the process of finishing the design, the cost is really going to come down to a really solid number, especially kind of even just hearing this work section. It sounds like a lot of the finishes in the existing council offices are in good condition. So that is another thing. I've only walked one of the office suites, and so we had to make some assumptions of what the work was, what the scope of work we actually needed was. And so I think as that becomes better defined, that there's definitely an opportunity to reduce some cost there. It's really just a matter of being able to see what actually needs touched, and which it sounds like is, a lot of places are pretty good. The one thing I will say in the offices, the big thing is creating those break rooms and locker rooms and creating them into the safe rooms. That's the majority of the work in the offices. Everything else is pretty simple. There's options, which are sometimes not ideal, that cost money, is, to keep you guys in the space. Like we could work off hours. Night work is expensive though, and sometimes it's hard to get people to want to do that. The other thing I would just like to mention is that the Chambers has a lot of work in here. There's a lot of demo work that's going to happen in here. And so if we were to do the Chambers while you guys were in your office, I would still be concerned about disruption to your daily work. The coming and going of just work, the dust, the noise, there's concrete that we have to place up there. It's going to be tricky. Not to say that we can't do it, but I just want to make sure that everyone is aware, even with Chambers moving forward, this is not going to be a silent job. We're going to be visible. And of course, we'll minimize it to the best we can. But that's just something I want everyone to make sure that they kind of have in their minds as well.
Thank you.
Follow-up question?
Just a quick question. How far along are we in terms of design? Would you say we're at 10%, 30%?
We're in the construction document phase, which is establishing the documents for construction. It's about 60% of the overall process. And so as we keep going, if we make changes, it's harder for the design team to backtrack, and so it is more involved.
Okay. And what's our current estimate for how much this job is going to cost?
Combined, we're looking at, I think it's at 3 million.
3.9.
3.7, 3.9.
Okay.
That's the
Construction
direct
costs,
cost
yeah.
for construction. That doesn't include the indirect costs for professional services.
Thank you very much.
Just a couple quick follow-up questions. Starting with the kind of your initial point, that combining construction of council offices and chambers leads to some efficiencies. It makes a ton of sense. On that specific point, I want to get to inflation and other contingencies in a second, but on that specific point, that's true whether we start January 1, 2024 or January 1, 2025, right?
Absolutely.
So, regardless of what the start time is, if we do it together, it's more efficient.
Absolutely.
Got it. And then, so on escalation and projecting cost, specific to inflation, right? What was the number you're currently estimating for inflation between, 2024 start and 2025? I'm not going to hold it to you. I just want to get kind of ballpark.
Yeah, I mean,
If we push it out, it'd be 4.5%.
yeah, typically, so we're not carrying it right now. We kind of were directed to assume that this work was going to start in 2024. So we're not carrying it, but I think we have a typical that we could carry. So What do we typically carry for?
We're carrying 4.5% per year on a number of other projects.
4.5, okay, thank you. And Maddie, you and I had a little bit of a conversation on the street, I don't know if that was yesterday or the day before, on the further conversation of cost of capital for the city of Portland. I don't know, do we have any further clarity on that question, or is that still an open discussion?
I would say it's still an open discussion. The question was what to use as a discount rate, and there's different methodologies between private sector and public sector. I think we're still debating whether or not we're using a bond yield or some sort of other figure, but I think we're somewhere around maybe 4%, depending on which number we use.
So fairly close to the rate of inflation they're articulating.
Yeah.
Okay. And just so that and again, for those listening at home, this is an important point. If you're delaying cash flows out a year, those cash flows hurt you less than they do today. And that's why you apply a discount rate. You face the risk of inflation. There's other risks that come into play. But a dollar spent today is different than a dollar spent a year from now. And the dollar spent, so I just want to make sure. And when we saw the original estimates on the impact of delaying a year, I was seeing sort of us get weighed down by the inflationary factor as well as some additional contingency in risk profile, but without a discount rate being applied. I'm comfortable assuming a 4.5% difference, but again, with some offset for cost of capital.
I think the meaningful cost for us is actually the splitting of the two projects. That's where we get into a lot of expense. And so in essence, the projects aren't the same as to if we do it in 2024 as it is if we split it between 2024 and 2025. They're almost different projects. And so that's why we don't have a cash flow analysis that's comparing them apples to apples, is because they're fundamentally different.
I fully grasp that. Follow the logic there.
When you looked at the space up the street for the council offices and the staff, what was the dialogue like about us doing our work there? Policy discussions in settings. We really do thrive in the way it's currently set up to be productive for the people of Portland. So that will be a big sacrifice, and I can guarantee you it will be a production drain, efficiency drain, and probably a pretty big morale drain as well. So I get what you're saying about construction, I get it. And so we're people, and we are trying to do our best as public servants for this city. So we're merely trying to make sure that we're set up to be efficient and effective like we've been demonstrating, except for these lovely conversations about design work and moving. So what was that dialogue like when you put yourself in our shoes about being productive through the rest of our tenure?
So we had gathered through, we had a series of discussions with your staff through our programming phases, and with that, we put together what we presumed were a series of programming requirements for both this space, but also for temporary spaces. So it included things like private offices for the councilor or commissioner, private office for the chief of staff, as much confidentiality as could be obtained. And so that was what we used to look at different spaces that were available. There are, though, a limited array of spaces available to put folks. So our space planner, who's not here today, did do a series of layouts up at the 1900 building, trying to understand how these spaces could work in relation to what we'd heard were the design requirements of council. We even looked at other office spaces, thinking maybe 6th and Main would be an option for this group. But again, it doesn't create the confidentiality between the offices that we're looking for, and then there's the holding costs of the lease. We, as I noted, looked at Water Bureau space, thinking maybe that would be lease-free and also close to City Hall, close to the mayor's office. That was one of the interests, is close to the mayor's office. But the Water Bureau's 4th floor or 5th floor, again, it doesn't create the confidentiality that I think we've learned you're looking for within a suite. And so, that perhaps was a miss on our part, but there are not a lot of options in terms of where we would place you while we did this work.
So we'll have, I think what I would call as Bureau of Development Services, their staff is in the same space that council staff would be.
They are. A lot of that staff are inspection staff, so we're believing that they can double up on space in hotel. They're often not there, and so they're isolated from the council spaces, as best I understand it, so.
Be able to speak for myself, but it seemed like my staff was caught off guard until we had our first meeting, and then you all noticed that, and you had some great conversations, even admitted some of the mistakes about not engaging our staffs in this dialogue for a few months, and so that's just kind of what happened. So that's why we're in this place of, what are we in this place of? We're trying to figure out how, again, we can be as productive as possible as elected officials, which we have been humming lately. It's been satisfying the last year to be on this council, to see action move, to get results in the community, and we want to stay focused on that. And so that's a sacrifice to the productivity of the city. We also want to welcome the new city council, which is why I appreciate, because you didn't have that in the original one, so we're adapting the plan, right? We're adapting the plan because we added the district offices. Thank you for adapting. And so we offered you some suggestions on how to make this better.
Yeah.
So I think all we're doing is trying to even this out. And I think that we can continue to make some concessions. But now today we learned, thank you, last week we made this great concession that we would give up the council chambers. But now we're being told by really smart people that probably that wasn't a great concession because they should probably go at the same time. But we didn't get that feedback last week. So that's new information today. So just bear with us. We're doing the best we can to keep getting new information and adapting with you as we figure out how to serve the city of Portland.
All right. So any other questions? I guess I have just one general one since the Commissioner Ryan raised it. The district office conversation, where are we in terms of identifying district offices?
Yeah, so our property staff is touring the sites right now. I think they've done a first round with most of the sites. There is one in Southeast, I think it's District 3, that isn't open until November. But we have a site checklist put together, they're touring them, and then I believe we committed to coming back on each one of them to communicate with you about our findings.
Great. And then in terms of, Commissioner Rubio, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted, since we're talking about that, I just wanted to weigh in. And I agree with everyone here. I know we all really want nothing more to get back to focusing on the work within our assigned responsibilities so that we can finish strong. I also really appreciate the need for getting ready for the next council. And I thought that the district office conversation that we had was a very elegant solution to problem solve some of the concerns that we had about workspace, et cetera. So just my opinion, but given that we have the district offices, I wonder if, and it's a question to facility staff, did you give thought to actually giving space for the new council to actually decide and have more direct input and weigh into whether or not they want new council offices constructed? Maybe it'll work just fine. Can they get in there, try it out, see if it works for them? If it doesn't, they can work with you on the plans about what those new spaces in City Hall should look like. Just curious if you had that conversation and what your thought is on that.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I'm not sure I fully understood the question.
Why not leave the decision up to the next council?
About the district, the in-district offices?
The in-district offices.
So that was actually our original recommendation, was to wait, and that's why it was a phase 2 on in-district offices. So that's why it's not part of phase 1.
I'm sorry, not in-district. I meant in council. sorry, I misspoke. In council offices, not in-district. Now that we have the in-district offices in play.
Understood. So we didn't, and I think the reason we didn't is because we knew that council chambers needed to be up and ready, and that was a hard deadline. And I guess just because of construction experience, we understood that it would be much more cost effective to do the council offices at the same time. And we also were under the impression, and maybe it's incorrect, that there is a need for touchdown space for council downtown, even in 2025. I think I was in at least one council meeting in which I think everything had to be shut down and kind of evacuated and people had to go to safe spaces. So we were really trying to pair those two things together. And then I would say the third reason is because it isn't a large redesign. It's a very pragmatically focused design. There's never a good time to get into these offices. They're hard, you guys are hard to program, I guess I would say. You have a lot of requirements, they're all legitimate, but it's very hard to find spaces that will work for you. So we thought we had a solution at the 1900 building, and we thought it was an elegant solution, but we were not under the impression that we could wait or take a lot of luxury with the calendar on council chambers, and then that would just naturally roll into the downtown offices as well.
So once the district offices were in play, though, there was no revisiting to recalibrate to see if that was not put back on the table.
In the last 2 weeks?
Yeah.
I would say that that's sort of the prerogative of this council, more so than ours. I think our recommendation would be to do work in the most affordable way, which is all at the same time, but I don't know that that's our decision to make.
So if I may be so bold, and I sound like a broken record, the decision was made in April. It has not been revised.
The decision made in April was as to process, not to plan.
Can we put up the language from the ordinance again, please?
Give me a minute here.
I mean, Mayor, I don't know that there's much ambiguity here. I think we were pretty clear in the intro what was authorized and what wasn't, and what authority this council retains. I mean, it's not that ambiguous.
I'm trying.
Well, look, it doesn't matter. It's a matter of public record. We disagree. We agree to disagree. I believe the council made that decision. My colleagues can disagree. I thought it was pretty clear.
There's a printout right
And
here.
we can agree to disagree.
And another option, if we need to clarify what we authorized in April, we can amend the ordinance to clarify council's intent. Maybe it's necessary, including the February ordinance addressing the chief administrative officer. It's legitimate to come back and say there are different reasonable people are looking at the same document and concluding different things about what it authorized. Then we can clarify our intent.
Okay, well, maybe, Robert, this would be a good time for you to go ahead. I think we've all made our points, and we can agree to disagree, but we are on a clock, and our CMGC is pretty far down the road. They have to schedule. And so we need to come to a decision. And the current process will lead us to accept staff recommendation. There will be I want to make sure I get it, the facilities team recommended design plan, as of today, is what's coming to council. It's my intention to support that plan unless somebody puts a better idea on the table. But we've got to put the idea on the table. If you guys have something else, the burden is on you to bring something to council. We've got the ordinance, we've got the process underway, we authorized the CMGC, we authorized a budget, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm ready to go. But if somebody wants to do something differently, we have a process. So can you, Robert, succinctly lay out what has to happen and the time frame by which it has to happen?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I just want to thank all of you on council and everybody here for this discussion. I think it's been very good, and we've come a long way. And listening to the mayor and Commissioner Gonzalez, I think this is a situation where you're both right. I think in the ordinance, the vision when that was passed was that by January 1st, 2025, the council chambers would be remodeled, and that there would be 12 new offices for the new council to step into. Commissioner Gonzalez is right that we approved a process to get us there. Council was going to be consulted during that process, and that ultimately in the next step, council has the prerogative to approve the report and the recommendations or to reject the report and the recommendations. And that's the
Well,
step
here's-
we're going to get to.
Right, and I get it, but I just want to be clear, and when are we going to see this report?
Well, we have to,
When we establish the GMP, which is happening in December, January?
So we get the full construction set of drawings that are going to go in for permit in the middle of December. I would strongly advise that we do not go out to the market at that point, because I'm sure, as everyone can imagine, the holiday season is incredibly busy, and you won't get a lot of good responses, which means we won't get good numbers. We're looking at getting our permit back mid-January, and so I would recommend that we bid this job the month of January and then start construction in February. The duration for the chambers is about, I think per the RFP, it's 31 weeks. I think we can do a little bit better than that. Per the RFP, the office duration was 28 weeks. Again, I think we can do a little bit better than that. So there is a slight opportunity potentially to delay the start of the office and still align the completion date with the day of the chambers. What I will say is construction has construction work, but then there is move-in work that has to happen on the facilities side, which I am very much not aware of, and so I won't speak to that, but I know that that is what is stretching the completion date out past the construction end.
So you think you could shorten the office phase to 28 weeks? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, currently
Okay.
it's at 28 weeks. I think we can do a little bit better. Through clear scope definition, I think that, we made some assumptions based on the square footage. Just from this conversation today, I think that the assumptions could be more real than on a square footage basis.
Okay, well, that gives us a little wiggle room. That's
Yeah.
good information. That's good
Absolutely.
insight.
Can I
Good.
just add that our team, the facilities team, needs time to decommission, so we need to decommission the low voltage cabling, the brack art needs to move, as well as
Yeah.
all the
How
furniture.
much time
And
do you think?
I'd like to allow a month, and that's what we have allowed for the month of January.
Yeah.
Okay.
and I would also articulate, we talked about the virtual council sessions. Something we were trying to avoid is having those council sessions happen virtually right in the middle of budget season. So, so when we talk about this being a process, it wasn't per se the whole process. It's more that because we're doing this in a non-traditional way, it's an alternative contracting method. It's a lot of pieces to the puzzle have to be in place before they come up with the GMP as opposed to after. So it's not a typical design they build. And so to hasten it, parts of the process are happening in a non-traditional order. So that's why, for example, we won't have a GMP until February. To get that, they need to know, are offices and chambers happening together, or are they happening separately? If they're happening together, then we save on all these mobilization costs. If they're happening separately, those are very different bids. So that's a little bit what it means to have the CMGC model of contracting. It's just different. And so that's why the timeline that we've pieced together, we're trying to take everybody's inputs into account. The reason council was happening in January, the chambers, is because we were trying to hit that virtual timeline over the holidays versus in the middle of budget season. If we wanted to specify that that could launch, but offices could be delayed, that is a specification we could create, and then that could be factored into these GMPs as they come forward.
Okay. Well, this is good insight, and, as Commissioner Ryan said, in the spirit of collaboration, we should look for, if there is middle ground to be had, where is it? And with a little more give to that timeline, maybe that gives us a path forward. We'll see.
And then we'll get an update with the district offices and the plan.
Yeah,
Because that wasn't in the
so,
original
yeah, as
resolution you speak of.
Maddie, you and your team get more information.
Yeah, yep, we can do that.
Just a process question. When do we expect the report to come before council?
So again, it's a non-traditional contracting method, so this is why the move would be happening prior to the report coming forward, which seems out of order, but that's because of the way the contract is constructed. So I think what you're saying is the GMP will come forward in February if they have, essentially, if they continue proceeding on the path we were on, which is everything in 1 year. Are you also able to bid out an alternate if they wanted to divide it?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yeah, so that's what we were just side talking about. So basically, I mean, we can do whatever you guys want to do. I think what our role here is just to tell you, you know, how you can do it the cheapest and the fastest, right? The cheapest and the fastest is to do it together. If, you know, we want to do alternates and do them separate, we can absolutely price it like that. And I think just knowing that ahead of time is huge, because then, you know, we can also condition the market a little bit and help people understand that this is what's out there and coming up. And so, you know, hopefully we can maintain that engagement. It's just a matter of, you're going to have me on the job longer than you thought, and so I cost money. The superintendent will be on the job longer than he thought, and that costs money. But, you know, as we look at this, and if we can really, again, like define the scope very clearly, understanding, I mean, there's literally like 5 or 6 walls on each side of the chambers that are getting built, and then we're building out a break room and a locker room that are going to be safe rooms. That is not a lot of scope. Like, I think that if there's not a lot of light touches that have to happen to finishes, we could really refine not only the cost, but the schedule. And so potentially, if there's a way, though, that somehow we can get the chambers and the office scope to overlap, that is really the ideal situation.
Thank you very much for that clarification. It does, I'm glad that there's a way to optimize this project. I also just want to make sure that my colleagues recognize that there is some tension in the timelines that we're facing, in that will be required. We're being asked to move out of chambers or out of this building before the resolution sort of authorizing us to move forward with any particular plan comes before us. I recognize kind of why that is. The process is probably a little bit odd, especially if there are tensions around how to proceed.
Yeah, and Commissioner, oh, go ahead.
Oh, and Commissioner Mapps, what I would say to that is, and I think the design and construction team would appreciate this too, is if we think council's not going to approve the report, we ought to just make that, you know, let's expedite that decision, give that feedback to folks, give them an alternative plan. They can help us come up with an alternative plan. We can get that done, you know, but I think that's sort of the way to go.
How many weeks? 28 weeks.
So then we should bring the report sooner rather than later.
You could bring the report sooner than later. Council could bring a resolution saying, you know, this is our direction. We want to proceed with the council chambers on this timeline. We want to proceed with the council offices on this different timeline. For example, that would be a possibility to give some direction now and make some decision now about how we're going to move forward.
I think that might be the out here, just to get everybody on the same page. I just would submit that a proactive resolution so that you guys aren't left guessing. We come to hopefully what 5 support, but at least what a majority support on timeline, and we move forward. I do want to just put one other piece out on April, just so everyone's clear. The 12 offices was set forth in an Exhibit A to that document. And so when people open up the original ordinance, they're not going to see that. And that's what many staff are focused on. You're not actually going to see it in the PowerPoints that were present in that council, and I think that in that session. So I think that's one of the tensions in looking backwards, why folks have different recollections as to what that thing was doing. It is there, buried in an exhibit. So I just wanted to put that on the record as we're all trying to recreate what we thought we approved, and seeing some dissonance in how we recall it. Again, proactive direction is maybe the cleanest way forward here.
So, to recap, I think we have some recapping here. So we're all in agreement on district offices being ready on January 1, 2025. There's never been any pushback on that.
I'm totally supportive of that.
Okay. the last meeting, we said we would clear up the council chamber. We got new information today. Thank you for your being so adaptable in this meeting. And then you said they actually could cross over a little bit, but they don't have. So what I heard from you is you could start the council chamber construction before the offices by some months.
Oh, I think we would definitely prefer to start chambers first. It's more complicated.
Perfect. Hold
For
that
sure.
thought. And so in the spirit of shared sacrifice, you might kick me right now. You said it's about 6 months, right?
Might
That it would
hug
take
you
to do
too,
the
so.
offices? Maybe my staff is ready to.
A little bit less, I think.
But so shared sacrifice, so if we moved out 3 months prior, and then the new council would have to wait 3 months for their new offices. That's just me doing a rough draft, trying to find a middle ground that allows us to really stay functional and focused on the priorities of the city as a highly functioning city council through our tenure, and then welcome the new district council members in their districts with a new office, and then they would have the chamber maybe done by January 1, hold that thought, and then the office would be done a few months later. That would be my suggestion back to you all to see if you could play with that. But I just said that because I know the hour's getting late, and we all have other duties to focus on. So edit away.
I want to think about it. Doesn't
Yeah,
sound
that-
crazy to me. I mean,
Right.
I want to lay it out so we're all clear on what you just described, but
I think all of us don't want to have any more meetings on construction of offices, and yeah.
All right, so Robert, just to wrap up, the next step of this is a report to either approve of the staff, the facilities team, recommendations for the design plan, or not to. And if the answer is not to, then the majority needs to come up with an alternative plan. Is that accurate?
In a nutshell, yeah.
Okay. Yes, Maddie, you look like yes.
Yeah, I think we're having some distress. So the report is the GMP. The GMP cannot be calculated unless we know what the resolution is on timing and sequencing.
Right, and that's of great importance
Sure.
to our CMGC.
So that's where we'd want guidance on timing and sequencing, which is, to be forthright, probably all we were coming forward for is, are we in the right order? We want guidance on that in order for Howard S. Wright to know, to put together the GMP,
So
which
could
is
I,
report
could
number
I,
one.
could
and
I
report number
suggest this, if everybody could bear with us for a week? And I appreciate in particular Howard S. Wright and their flexibility here. I believe I find myself in the minority on this issue, I think. We haven't polled, we haven't asked anybody how they would vote, but my suspicion is I am in the minority. So I would be bringing forward the report with the recommendation, which obviously, since I sponsor it, I would be inclined to support. But it also suggests my colleagues have some work to do if they are in the majority, if they are, to come up with an alternative. And so I would just, I'm not going to lead that process. I would expect the majority of the council to do that. Can we sort of get a thumbs up on
And
that?
you've been adaptable, like you agreed with the district offices, so that was an example of you coming along with all of us, like adapting as we move forward. And then I just put out edits that could help us find consensus. I think, Mayor, that's what we need right now is consensus. I don't think this is majority or minority. This is about staying focused on the priorities for the city of Portland without too many disruptions.
Yeah, well,
and I think we're all in consensus.
I'm a firm believer in majority rule. That's democracy. I feel as strongly about the staff report and my desire for us to move forward expeditiously. And I will still assume that the mayor's office will move out if it's helpful to the overall plan. But majority rules.
How much
And
construction?
I support that.
can I ask a follow-up technical question? Because I love the spirit of it, and I think there's alignment here. I think the technical question is we would, if what the mayor is describing as a majority were to come forward with an alternative plan, we would need technical help in developing that plan. And so I just want to, I mean, we can come back conceptually, but I just want to think through the blocking and tackling of that scenario. It could be very advantageous that we engage with you directly, but I just want to think about mechanically, how's that going to work? I mean, it's like, to build off the mayor's, assumptions, and I'm not sure he's wrong there, so just building off of that.
Actually, let me, as long as we're asking for staff help, here's a problem that I think is woven into this. So I believe I have probably Water Bureau and I have staff over at the 1900 building who I think are moving over to the Portland building. And we need to do that in order to save some dollars. And if I don't do that, I think I'm going to have to come up with some more money. I'm not clear how council, what happens if council doesn't move out of these chambers in terms of all that stuff. We don't have to answer it today, and
I
it's late.
actually think,
late in the
can we
day.
answer that today? Because I hope we were unambiguous in supporting what Commissioner Maps was articulating. I don't see these two
Yeah.
connected, but please clarify.
So they weren't coming out of 1900 building. They were coming out of 6th and Main, which is an outleased property, or sorry,
Okay.
Pioneer Tower. The one you're talking about, Pioneer Tower and 6th and Main. And where it became intermingled is that we were concerned about if this office portion of the project delayed to 2025, where will the council go? And that is the last big block of space that's available that we felt met the design requirements for temporary space that we'd heard outlined. So we were in discussions with Water Bureau and BES about it being held open in case it was needed. What we heard and what we agreed to last week, which is why I tried to break these into separate pieces, is that we would proceed with that restack and save them the money. And if we made the decision to delay council offices to 2025, that we would cross that bridge when we got there. And so what that means effectively is that yes, exactly the look you have on your face, where are they going to go? And so I'm hoping that we can cobble together options that would be probably district offices, probably squirreling up in different spaces in the Portland building, patching together vacancies that exist in 1900. So it's not as elegant. They're not in one space. I think we were concerned about rapport building, but that was the potential consequence of delaying offices to 2025 is we have this sort of inelegant situation about where the council goes should we move forward with this project
Okay.
in 2025.
And colleagues, if we go about developing an alternative proposal, I just hope that BES, Water, and PBOT do not incur any additional costs around housing. It's obviously a complicated Rubik's Cube here, but that's one of my concerns because we're facing cuts in all three of those bureaus right now.
So didn't we approve the restack?
Yes,
So why wouldn't the restack go forward? I don't understand that.
I think it would.
Okay, great.
I think it would, and so part of the alternative development that we'll walk through with you, it sounds like, is where are these folks going to go?
Yeah.
And the answer to that is we don't know. They're going to get scattered. And so from a rapport building standpoint, that may be challenging. So we'll probably ask you to put yourselves in their shoes. What is that going to feel
Well, I think
like?
district offices is the
District
great
offices are an
input.
option.
Yeah, that's-
They could also potentially be an option for this council, if we brought them online prior to January 1st of 2025.
So I don't understand why we as the elected officers wouldn't bear the burden of these decisions. Why would we push these off? Why would we push this inconvenience and the burden onto our own employees? I don't get that. I'm not there.
I'm not following the logic at all. I think
I
we're
just
crystal clear
heard the
that we
term
want them to
squirreled
stack.
around
I think he's
as
talking
to
about
where
the
we would
new,
locate our city employees, squirreled around in various little hovels in dribs and drabs and bits and pieces across the city's real estate.
Are we in a new meeting?
I think we're talking about
Did I
council office.
misunderstand?
I think
We're talking about downtown workspaces for city council in 2025. If we proceed with the office project in a way that doesn't allow the new councilors to take a seat in their offices on January 1st of 2025, here.
In a
If that's
central
not an option,
they have district office.
in district offices and downtown offices, I'm sorry, I'm trying to use different terminology to help make it clear. So in district offices should be available for them. The downtown workspaces are really intended to be a touchdown space and a collaboration space for them to come together and get to know each other. If these spaces are under construction in 2025, that experience for them will be different than I guess we'd imagined, which is that it would be ready for them. And so, therefore, where will they be alternatively downtown? And that is where we're kind of finding spots to put them for a period of time until the offices are done, and then they come back to those offices. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
And I guess I want to,
That's
if
the
it's all
shared
right, Commissioner
sacrifice.
Matt, I just wanted to circle back to my question of we are responsible for proposing an alternative plan, that just how do we engage with the technical experts? We're policymakers, we can talk about priorities, but the technical work of sequencing this, we kind of need your feedback on for
Yeah.
developing an alternative plan.
So my professional recommendation would be that we allow Howard S. Wright to price out two alternatives, and you guys can pipe in here, but one would be, because the council work span is so long and so technical, there's a lot of AV and we need time for commissioning, that they get the permission to cost out one option, which is that they do all of it together. They do council at the same time that they do the offices. If we want an alternative, they could also price out chambers in 2024 with offices starting at another time. And that time it would have to be directed by you. So the things that are pertinent to the report, which is the GMP, are the scope and the timing. So if we can generally agree on the scope, I don't think the scope for offices is contentious, to be honest, nor for chambers. The only question that remains to be resolved is timing. And so I think that that is where we would require guidance from this council to prepare alternatives so that you could see them apples to apples. The one complexity here, though, is that because of the length of the time for chambers, we will have to relocate chambers prior to the report, the GMPs coming in, because that costing process is taking longer. So construction doesn't, where it's confusing is construction doesn't start until the GMP is approved. But to get ready for construction, we need probably 4 or 6 weeks, however long it is, to decommission the assets here and get you into a temporary space. So that's why the move would have to happen prior to the GMP being received and construction commenced. So, we kind of have to agree that that's a go, and that we're going to say yes to that. The other pieces can be sequenced in.
Okay, I'm sorry, I sort of let the time get away. We're a little over. Thank you, everybody, for your time. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Sorry.